All right, guys, we might get started. So, we've got the amazing Keriann with us tonight for the nutrition call. Super lucky. She's got a wealth of knowledge. Being in the industry since school, she's got a university diploma in nutrition. And she is also in her final year of her Bachelor of Health Science, specializing in nutrition. So we are super grateful to have her on board with us. So if everyone can give her a warm welcome. And Keriann, I'll pass it over to you.
How is everybody? Nice turnout. I see a lot of ladies, which is good because today I want to touch on a few main things. So first of all, everything that I say is not medical advice and is of a general nature. And second of all, so we're going to be going over metabolism, blood sugar, and hormone health predominantly. I know in the gymosphere, there's a lot of talk about the calories in versus calories out, which is fantastic. And that is definitely true when it comes to losing weight and getting fit and looking great. But we're going to talk a little bit about the practical hacks of what to do in between calories in, calories out. So what I mean by that is like, what is the body doing with the calories that you're putting in so that you can maximize your muscle gain and your fat loss while maximizing how much you get to eat and then minimizing fat storage. So very exciting bit of information. So the first thing that I want to touch on is metabolic health.
Are we muted?
The person that said that was not muted. You don't have to be muted though. You can definitely interact if you want. It's nice to have a bit of feedback. So has everyone here heard of metabolic health, like heard the term before? All right. I'm going to assume you all have. So it basically just means how healthy is your metabolism. So you could eat, say you're on a pretty low calorie diet, you're on 1,500 calories a day, and that goes into your body, and 1,000 calories of that is just stored straight as fat. And this can happen. And then you've got 500 calories to live off of, and you're going to feel very depleted and very tired, and you're still going to be putting on fat. And that's what happens to a lot of people when they're like hitting the gym and eating healthy, and it's not budging. That's often the case. So in order to make it so that your body uses things appropriately, like uses calories appropriately, so that you get maximum gain for your efforts, you want to basically nurture the pathways that lead to a healthy metabolism. The first one that we're going to talk about is hormones. And I'm happy to see a lot of ladies here because we girls struggle with our hormones a lot, and it makes it really difficult to lose weight and to get healthy, and it can make our nutritional journey seem really, really tough and sluggish. So first of all, I want to talk about what healthy hormones should look like, and then some symptoms that your hormones probably need some help. And then we'll talk about the nutritional ways and things that you can do to help your hormones to balance out. And I know 5EF has a lot of great meal plans as well that are centered around hormones that I put together based around this information. So feel free to hit your coach up for, one of those as well. So when it comes to metabolism, the number one signs that you want to look for is there's body temperature. You can look into that if you want, into how to take your body temperature to know if your hormones are good. There's obviously, you want minimal PMS, minimal moodiness.
My God.
You want that time of the month to not be well. You also want to have not a lot of fat accumulating around your stomach, which is a sign of a hormonal imbalance. And then there's generally you just want to kill everyone is another good sign of hormonal imbalance. And then also if you're constantly tired. If your hormones are well balanced, you basically have the opposite of that. You're looking for energy. It's easy to lose weight. You're not storing fat no matter how much you eat. You've got a healthy appetite, not heaps and heaps of cravings, and you don't get PMS. So that's where I want or women to be. In order to get there, there's a couple of things that you want to do. One of them is stabilize your blood sugar with food. So that's why it's important to have meals that are a bit of fat, a bit of protein, and a bit of carbs. When we eat all of the macros at once, they balance each other out so that we're not getting a big spike in blood sugar, which is what causes fat storage. And we'll go a little bit more into that later on. The other thing that you want to make sure you're doing is eating enough food. I know a lot of like ladies in particular, but also men, actually, yeah, especially men as well, tend to not eat enough. And I am sure you've heard someone may have said it to you, like, are you eating enough when you're trying to lose weight? Which doesn't really make sense, because you think, like, nutritionally, to lose weight, you often think that restriction is the key. But if you balance out your hormones by eating enough food, then weight loss becomes a lot easier. So that's definitely a hack. It's definitely something to focus on, getting the right amount of food. So when you're hungry, say every 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on your natural hunger signals, you eat a meal with protein, carbs, and fats, and then you just repeat that, and you'll usually fit 3 to 4 meals in a day. We'll also go into a bit later in the practical tips, like what type of foods you should be eating within your meals. And also, like, I want to talk about some shopping tips later on as well, like making sure that everyone knows how to read the back of like a food label in the shops, what to look for, and like understanding things like oils and sugars, because that's very, very important. So while we're on that topic, we'll just go a little bit more into blood sugar. Once again, a really, really important thing to get on top of when you're trying to lose weight. And balancing your blood sugar is like, all of these things are done through nutrition. Obviously, exercise is going to help with all of these as well, but the large bulk of this is just dependent on what you either do or don't put in your mouth. So when it comes to blood sugar, once again, it's eating regularly and eating a balance of carbs, fats, and proteins. So you might have, like, I'm sure you guys have seen the pictures of the plates broken up into different squares of how much you should put on your plate. I think everyone is so individual that different things work for different people. And it's important to just figure out what keeps you hungry, keeps you full for about 3 to 4 hours, and then you get like a little bit hungry, but there's no cravings. That's how you know you've reached your sweet spot. So for me personally, that's like, I love my protein. I have mostly protein and then a bit of fat and then a little bit of carbs. And just circling back to hormones for women, carbs are really important. So our frame and our muscles are built from protein, so that gets a lot of airtime, and our energy comes from carbs, so that gets a lot of airtime. And then the fats build they feed our brain, and they also help with our hormones. So they all play a really integral role. And it's super important that when you're balancing your blood sugar, you don't avoid carbs. There's a lot in the media that talks about how carbs spike blood sugar. And yes, they do to an extent, like certain carbs will spike your blood sugar. But the way to counteract that is to just eat other things with it. So I know there was the big craze with like low GI foods. I think it's kind of simmered down a bit, but there's the whole low GI diet where you only eat foods that are above a certain glycemic index. So like sugar has a glycemic index of 1, which means that it's going to spike the heck out of your blood sugar. And then you'll have something like oats is about 30, and then it goes up and up, depending on like how healthy the food is generally. But really all you need to do to balance your blood sugar is just mix foods together. Like you could eat something with a glycemic index of 1, but then if you're eating that with like a piece of steak, then it's going to meet somewhere in the middle and it's not going to spike your blood sugar. So it's really simple. When you're putting together your meals and your meal plan, just making sure that every one of your meals has a good balance of carbs, fats, and protein. Really, fats generally come in incidentally, I find. And that's why people say focus on your proteins and your carbs. But yeah, don't just let fats come in incidentally, because as we'll just touch on a bit later, they are also super duper important. And like fat isn't the same as fat. Like the fat you eat isn't the same as the fat on your stomach. It's not like you eat the fat and it just like stores. It's they're actually called lipids, the things that you eat, and they help to keep your metabolism really healthy. So they are really, really important. On that, does anyone have any questions before I go any further? And we'll have a bit of, so I'll just ramble on for a bit, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. But I might just like stop after each little section and see if anyone has any questions, and please don't be shy, people. Yeah, so let me know at any point if you want to jump in. Okie dokie. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Because I have a small little slideshow. Sorry, please ignore the 70 billion tabs that I have open and my conversation with Bo. All right. Can everyone see that? One person's going to have to talk to me here.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, so how to read a food label. This is probably going to be a bit boring, but it is so important to know. It can get really confusing going to the shops and just like, because the front of a food item isn't actually any nutritional information. It's marketing by the marketing team that's selling the product. So you can never take face value with food at the shops. Always turn it around. Everything you buy, just make sure that you know what's in it, because they can say fundamentally whatever they like on the front of a piece of food. So when you look at your nutritional facts, the number one thing what I do is I think, all right, how much of this am I likely to eat? Because that's going to affect the what the back of the packet means. So if I know that I'm going to eat the whole thing, then the serving size becomes, so for this, a serving size is, there's 8 servings per container. So if I want to eat the whole thing, I have to times all of these numbers by 8. So then you're probably going to want to come down to the carbohydrate section, especially if it is like a very sugary food, and make sure that you're not consuming like 300 grams of sugar in one sitting. You also want to look at the protein, especially because as gym goers, like you often want to know that there's protein in your food, and marketing companies often want to tell you that there's protein in their food, but there isn't. So you want to make sure that if you're trying to hit a protein goal, especially, that you turn it around and make sure that there is actually any kind of substantial amount of protein in the food. Then you've got your micronutrients, which very handily tell you what percentage of iron per se is in one serving. And you also want to look at, like just the general fats and times it by the amount of servings that you're going to be eating. So that's the main thing with your serving sizes. Another cool trick is if it doesn't have the calories, most labels do, but if it has kilojoules, you divide it by 4, and that's extremely close to the amount of calories in it. So say it said 400 kilojoules in one serving, that's 100 calories. So that's a handy little trick. All right, and just knowing that a serving size is never actually a serving size, so you do have to do this yourself every time. All right, so star ratings, they have come in the last few years, and not many people actually know how a star rating works. So it doesn't necessarily, well, it's not compared to everything. So say you go into the soup section and you're looking for a soup, and there's like a 1-star soup and a 5-star soup. You're not comparing those soups to like the fruit or milk, or it's just comparing it to other soups. So it's like a category thing. So it helps you to be able to find like a healthier item within that category. So you'll have oils that are 5-star and oils that are 1-star. You'll have cakes that are like 5 stars and cakes that are 1-star. So just know not to pick something based on the star rating. but you can compare different items in a certain category based on the star rating. So that tip I found really handy, because I don't know if I'm the only person that didn't know that, but I thought that it was just comparing everything in the store with everything in the store, but it's a category thing. So it can be really helpful if you're trying to pick the best thing in that category. And also, like, then you've got the whole issue of like, what is the best thing and what are they going off? But generally they can be quite good. The real way that I tell how healthy something is by the ingredients list, because they can't lie in the ingredients list. They do little tricks, like marketing companies, to make things seem better, like separating sugar into several different words and putting it in different spots. So if you look at this ingredients list, this is like quite a common thing that you'll see. You turn it around and there's just like a bunch of things that you can't pronounce. There's numbers, there's 50 different words for sugar. If you see an ingredient list like this, put the thing back on the shelf and walk away. I have a rule where if it has more than 5 ingredients, unless I really, really want it, I won't get it. And if I can't read something in the ingredients list, I'll put it back. And if it has numbers in the ingredients list, I'll also put it back, because that just means it's full of, like, a number is a chemical, it's not actually food. And it's really important when you're like losing weight and nurturing your metabolism to try and like lessen your food chemical load. So that's things like preservatives, colors, flavors. And then the other thing in ingredients lists that makes it seem like it's healthy is like fortified vitamins and minerals and things like that. So it might say like it has niacin in it, and you're like, oh cool, like I need to increase my niacin. But it's, yeah, the amount and the type of fortified vitamin is generally like more detrimental to your health than good. So see, go away, my little puppy's licking my hand. All right. So just whole foods don't have an ingredients list. Whole foods, like the term's used a lot, it literally just means a food that is whole, and they are invaluable. So when you're going shopping, a really good tip is to shop around the outside of the store. Everything on the inside of the store is usually in a packet and usually has an ingredients list that you need to go through. Everything on the outside is just, you don't have to read any ingredients lists. So it's really easy. It's just things like fruits, vegetables, meats, cheeses, milks, like eggs, all the things that just are what they are. And then you go home and you make your own beautiful home cooked meal with it. It does take more time. It is more effort, but it's so worth it eating more whole foods. And that's the really good thing about having a meal plan, because it comes with like a lot of recipes of how to mix whole foods together to make delicious meals. And if you think about it, like our bodies aren't used to eating like 100 different little ingredients and chemicals all at once. Like it's not how we evolved as humans. So the body really appreciates it when you just feed it a whole food that it understands and it knows and it's used to. It's just a lot easier on the digestive system, and the less stress that you put on your digestive system, the less likely you are to store fat. Like that's a fact. If your body feels safe and feels like it's comforted and it's getting everything that it needs, it's way more likely to just go, I don't need to store all of this spare energy in case something goes wrong, because I know that my human's going to keep feeding me whole foods that are full of nutrition. All right. So hidden sugars in foods. This is a nice little image of all the different things that sugar is called in food. So like I said earlier, you might see the back of an ingredient and the back of an ingredients list, and it might have like these separated into like 6 different types of sugars, so that and they'll have different names and they just seem great. Sugar isn't bad. Like sugar is a fantastic form of quick energy for the body, and it really appreciates fast energy that it doesn't have to work for. But when they isolate sugar, and there's a lot of like really good research articles coming out on this, when they isolate sugar, like high fructose corn syrup, for example, or maltodextrin, what happens is the body doesn't actually understand. It literally gets confused. It doesn't understand what's going on. And it has such a high glycemic impact on the body that it's actually like it causes so much inflammation that it's carcinogenic, meaning that it's the kind of sugar that does cause cancers. And that causes widespread inflammation. So it's just like not demonizing sugar, but knowing which sugars are good and which sugars are bad. If you bought like a thing of good quality honey, that's not going to hurt you, and fruit, like that's not going to hurt you. But if you're buying things and that have lots of high fructose corn syrup in it, that's when sugar becomes extremely problematic. It's isolated substances that have only recently been introduced, and they're just so bad for the poor body. So they're definitely things to look out for if you want to reduce the amount of fat that your body's storing. Then the next thing that I want to talk about is oils. Oils are surprisingly good and surprisingly bad. Like oils can help with your skin, your hormones, they can help with fat loss. They're full of nutrients. But on the flip side, you can then get oils like the processed seed oils, like canola oil and vegetable oil, where there's so many studies coming out now that show that they are extremely inflammatory. They lead to visceral fat around the stomach, which we all hate. They are really bad. So they should definitely be avoided. Those are your corn oils, your canola oils, your basically anything that comes from a vegetable or a nut or a seed. Vegetables and seeds sound like a great idea. So you often see them and you're like, this oil must be really healthy because it comes from like a sunflower. That sounds so dandy. But there is nothing dandy about vegetable oils, unfortunately. Great oils to use are animal oils, and that's because they're saturated. To try and keep it simple, saturated fats can handle high heats because they are saturated. The molecule is like so tightly packed that it can't really be harmed and it can't turn rancid. But if you get like corn oil, for instance, it's very fragile, and as soon as you heat it, it becomes toxic. So that is why you should try and use nut oils and animal oils or your saturated fats. They are fantastic. All right, meat. And I'm sorry if there's any vegans. These are graphic images of meat. But meat is like obviously has many, many health benefits. It's just dependent on the type of meat that you buy. There are a lot of studies that all of the studies that I found that show that meat is inflammatory use the meats on the right, like the processed meats and meats that are like animals that are raised really badly. So try and avoid those, or meats with added like preservatives and nitrates and things. And then always look for your beautifully raised, pasture-raised, grass-fed meats. So not only did the animal have a fantastic life, but the meat profile is a lot healthier and it's anti-inflammatory rather than inflammatory. You'll usually find those at a butcher. It's like rumor has it that kind of meat is a lot more expensive, but if you find a good butcher, there can be like some really cheap grass-fed, well-raised meats. You just have to look around. They're not usually at the supermarket, unfortunately, so you do have to do like a bit of a detour. If you can't get to a butcher, even just eating like Woolies and Coles are bringing out grass-fed ranges. But yeah, there is actually a big difference. I know it seems like a bit of a conspiracy that grass-fed meat and well-raised animals are better, but it makes sense. Like if you take a human and feed them something that they're not supposed to eat and treat them badly, can't say this, but they're probably not going to taste as good. Yeah, so always go for grass-fed, free range, and avoid things with like added preservatives. Nitrates are a big thing that they put in preserved cured meats. And just go easy on like the hams and the bacons and things that you're going to find in like the deli or the fancy meat aisle. All right. I think that, yeah, that's the end. And that's about 25 minutes. So I will stop rambling, stop sharing my screen. And we'll go into Q&A. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask me regarding, I know we talked a lot about like processes today, but that's kind of the part that makes things make more sense for people. So now you can go, oh, I need a food that's going to support my metabolism or blood sugar. It's probably going to be a whole food. It's going to be like a fruit or a vegetable or meat. So I really hope you guys feel more equipped to make decisions now. Does anyone have any questions? We're not going to leave until someone asks a question. What have we got on here?
There's some questions in the chat.
Oh, there's questions in the chat. Thank you. How do I get to the chat?
Red meat, how often should you eat it? Cheryl Edwards
Oh, cool.
has
Yeah,
just
I see
asked.
them. I can see them. Yeah, so that's a great question. Everyone is different. If you want to go and get like a test by like Microba or someone that tells you like how good your body digests meat, that's a really good thing that you can do. Otherwise, just go by feel. Red meat, like good quality red meat, is so packed with nutrients, like your B vitamins and all of your amino acids. It is like, it's a superfood. It has by gram way more nutrients in it than fruits and vegetables even, which is like a very little known thing. So basically try and eat as much red meat as your tummy feels comfortable with. It is very satiating, so you often can't eat as much of meat as you can of like vegetables and fruits. Personally, I eat red meat at least once a day, mostly twice a day. And I'll just have like a small portion of it. Yeah, but like with all things, if it's healthy, try and find your bandwidth of how much of it that you can handle. But if you're trying to get fit, then red meat should be a large basis of your diet. All right, what are some good easy snack foods that you recommend? All right, so if you're a fan of jerky is a really good snack. It's just super lean and high in protein, and doesn't have lots of added things in it. You can get some nice little bliss balls at the shops, or you can make your own. Try and use lots of things like coconut, like a good protein powder, maybe a hydrolyzed collagen powder in it, and go easy-ish on the nuts. Nuts can upset a lot of people's tummies. And also, like, if you find a good quality protein bar, then that can also be really handy too. The next question is about Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is also a great snack. Is Greek yogurt healthy? Why does Greek yogurt only have a 1-star rating? So this is another issue with the star rating. So that's comparing that Greek yogurt to the other Greek yogurts in that section, or other yogurts. Greek yogurt is definitely healthy. There are some that have a lot of like sugars and added flavors and things in them, so you want to watch out for that. But just like a pot set Greek yogurt is incredibly healthy, and it's been linked to weight loss and a healthier stomach because it's obviously full of lots of probiotics and prebiotics. So yeah, don't follow the star rating to your grave. Like, learn to read the backs of packets and figure, kind of like get some autonomy around your food decisions, because it's definitely not the best rating system. Any foods that we can eat as much as we want? I love that question. I ask myself that question all the time. So all things in moderation, unfortunately. If you're exercising a lot, lots of like good quality, like well-raised animal products like meats and things, you really can't eat too much of because you get really full. They're very satiating. If you're of the mindset that you want to eat something as much as you can, I would pick foods that are satiating, because otherwise that can get out of hand. Like if you accidentally eat a kilo of celery and then you end up on the toilet all day. So just making sure that if you do want to, like if you have a tendency to binge, or you do really want to like eat a lot of something and you like food, going to like satiating foods instead of going, what's the most low calorie food that I can find? Because you'll find there that you'll just end up eating a large quantity of food and you might like get like a bit stodgy. But if you eat really satiating food that fills you up, at the start it might be difficult, but after a while you'll likely get less cravings. and you'll likely just want more whole foods, if that makes sense. I hope I answered that question. It was probably a really lame answer that you didn't want to hear. But yeah, foods like watermelon and celery, if you do want a really light snack, foods that are full of water, they're pretty good as well. Apart from the obvious, where are some good sources from protein? Protein's a really important thing to talk about because you can eat protein, but whether it's absorbed or not is another thing. So I'm assuming by the obvious sources, you mean like meat, eggs, like beef jerky, which is just a type of meat, like cottage cheese and other dairy sources, basically your animal sources. And then hydrolyzed collagen powder is really good too. Or like a good protein powder. The main sources are kind of the best sources. Like you should really stick around there. And the reason being is if you try and get your protein from like edamame and things of that nature, yes, it does have protein in it, but the protein isn't bioavailable, meaning the body doesn't absorb it nearly as much. You have to eat a lot more. It doesn't have a complete set of amino acids, meaning your body tries to put it together like a puzzle piece and there are pieces missing and it just like discards it. Whereas when you're eating like animal products, they're complete sources of protein. If you want to get really, really smart and look into it, you can pair different things together with different amino acids so that they are a complete protein and your body will absorb it. But that can be like quite an intensive process. But that is definitely a way if you're looking for some unconventional protein sources. Another thing that they're doing is making like cricket protein powder and stuff. I'm sure you'll all eventually see that, which is kind of gross, but also pretty cool because, I don't know, there's lots of crickets out there. What brand protein bars do you recommend? I don't really have a brand that I recommend per se. I find a lot of protein bars have a lot of ingredients that I don't really like to eat. So I just look for the protein bars that have the most natural ingredients in them. I actually do, there's a protein bar, it's called a Chief bar, and it's a protein bar made out of meat, which might gross some people out, but that's probably my favorite protein bar. And also I can't remember, but there's one that's really tasty. How much natural fat should you have in a day? So the recommendation for fats is about 50 to 60 grams. But if you're eating natural saturated fats from like animals and things like that, like good quality fats and like your good quality oils and like maybe like a grass-fed butter, things of that nature, just try and find your bandwidth on it. Like you're going to get to a point when you're eating fats where your gallbladder will start to struggle and you'll know about it if you want to look up symptoms of that and then basically just keep on watch. But yeah, you can eat a lot more natural fats. Some people can eat a lot more natural fats than 50, 60 grams a day. I mean, look at people that do keto and they like just eat fats. And while I don't recommend like smashing any one macronutrient, you shouldn't have to restrict your fats as long as you're keeping them in check in terms of calories, because they can blow out your calories. You should be fine. Is fruit a good snack? A lot of diets and myths. Yeah, okay, so I have been doing a lot of research recently on fruit sugars because people seem to hate them. Like people who make diet plans, they tell you to omit fructose because it's just sugar. It works in like this really magical way where it doesn't spike your blood sugar. If you have like 1 to 2 pieces with every meal, it actually helps to balance out your blood sugar. And that's the only thing you really have to worry about with natural fruits, natural sugars is like honey, maple syrup, even like, is it going to spike your blood sugar? And if you're eating it with some kind of protein, then it's definitely not. And even without, some people can eat fruit even on its own and it doesn't spike their blood sugar. A way you can tell is if you eat fruit and then you get like an energy burst and then you get tired and you're hungry after. That's a really easy way to tell that the fruit's spiked your blood sugar. But yeah, fruit's amazing. It is so easy for your body to digest. I put fruit higher than vegetables. Like that stuff is very, very good and it's delicious. Suggestions when you're having a sweet craving and when you're having a salty craving. So cravings happen for a reason, and this has kind of become like public knowledge in the last couple of years, that like they have those craving charts of if you're craving this, have this instead, and there's definitely some merit to that. Cravings aren't actually, like, you're not supposed to have strong cravings, and I went for years having really, really intense cravings, and I just thought that that was my life, and I had the biggest sweet tooth. But they come like, if you stabilize your blood sugar and you're metabolically healthy, then you just don't crave food. You kind of have a meal, and then like you can get to the next meal, and then you just have that meal, and that comes from eating whole foods, eating regularly enough, and then eating foods that stabilize your blood sugar and your hormones. And that's just whole foods. Like, there really is no secret to it. But in the moment, if you're craving something sweet, I would recommend having fruit. And if you're craving something salty, like meat is really salty, you can check some salt on it. If you're craving something, by craving something salty, people often mean like something bad salty, like chips or something. You can even find chips that, the worst part about chips is that they cooked in terrible oils. They have chips these days cooked in like coconut oil or olive oil. So if you're craving something naughty and salty, then like just go and find some chips cooked in good oils, and they're delicious. All right. Did we have any more questions?
No more questions, guys? All right, we might wrap up the call here if no one has any more questions. Just a special thank you again to Keriann for jumping on tonight and sharing all of your knowledge. We definitely appreciate it. And then just to all of our operators on the call, make sure you are speaking to your members about the local events happening this weekend. But yeah, thank you again, Keriann. We really appreciate it.
One more quick question just come through. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yep, sneaky one in there.
Yeah.
Is there something good to eat before a workout? That's an awesome question. And just workout timing in general, it's obvious. It's, once again, like, it's a very individual thing. But generally it is good to eat something before a workout, because you want to fuel that workout and you want to use something. Like, your body doesn't run on nothing. If you don't eat something good before a workout, and then you go and do a workout, your body is just going to dig into what it has, which sounds great when you're thinking like, oh yeah, it's just going to dig into my fat. But often what it does is it just digs into your adrenal system and spikes your cortisol, and that prevents weight loss. So that's a really good question. Before a workout, you're going to want to eat something like quick carbs, even like if you want to have some like OJ, and also maybe a bit of protein as well. But if you're eating protein, you're probably going to want to eat it like 30 minutes at least, like before you work out, just because it is quite a filling macronutrient, and you might feel a bit stodgy. So before a workout, if you want to have some like fruit, even OJ, maybe some kind of like protein, that's great. The only thing that's not too useful before a workout is lots of fat. You can have a little bit, but if you eat a really fatty meal, you're probably just going to feel a bit sick throughout your workout. What's a good dressing or sauce to have on your food? There are some really good, like, I don't know if you guys know like Market Organics or like those kind of stores, but like your health food stores, they have some really cool sauces and dressings that don't have the bad oils in it. That's the main thing with your sauces and dressing. They get a lot of airtime for having bad sugars in it. And yes, that's true. But what's worse is the types of oils that they have in them are really inflammatory. So you're going to want to find a dressing or a sauce that is based on extra virgin olive oil, which is tricky, and it's generally a bit more expensive, but it is like little things like that make a massive difference to your metabolism. Olive oil and balsamic is a perfect dressing. Yes. So if you want to make your own, that's even better. But if you're buying, just look out for, try and find one with just like, it should have like 4 ingredients in it. If you want to make your own balsamic, olive oil, anything like that, lemon is great as well. Just avoiding like highly processed sauces. Yeah.
No more questions, guys? Alrighty, we'll wrap up the call here. Thank you again, Keriann. We really appreciate you taking the time to jump on tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.